Today is challenges in practice of histopathology in private sector. So I work in a central government institute, and I have a lot of privileges and a lot of perks which come associated with working in a government sector. But I would try to give a balanced viewpoint from my perspective. It is basically nothing new. It is nothing new. It is just a discussion. It's a very general, abstract presentation, which most of you would, at the end, agree as private pathologists what you find difficulty in practicing histopathology. So this is like an Aapki Adalat. I am a Sarkari pathologist, and I'm standing in front of a lot of private pathologists, and I have to speak from your viewpoint, and I will try to make it a little simple. So coming to our hospital first, we are a big department with 20 consultants, 36 MD students, 12 say senior residents, fellows. We have 65,000 oncopathology samples, 2 lakh IHC slides, 12,000 cytology, 8,000 FNECs, and 12,000 frozens. This is our annual workload. On top of that, we as consultants are responsible for all these teaching, training, MDT, tumor boards, thesis. So we are pretty much busy with a lot of teaching programs and all that stuff. If you look at uh, pathology in the private sector, if you look at pathology as private, this is the research, market research, which says that anatomic pathology is going to rise by 5.8% in the next coming 5 years. And in 2018, it was 17.4 billion annual revenue. It's a huge market, and it's going to increase by leaps and bounds in coming year. The issue about histopathology is that we are physicians behind the physicians. So if you look at this picture which I put, we are something behind the curtain. So as histopathologists, we have little direct contact with the patients, and the only communication we have is in the form of a clear surgical pathology report. So we have to be extremely careful in this era where there is a lot of medical litigation coming in. We should be extremely clear how to word a report, how to put up our reports, and this is a very, very big challenge. We all are worried as pathologists that we don't make mistakes and we don't land up in court with things. So that's the idea of practicing histopathology these days. So how has histopathology changed over the years? Earlier it was diagnosis, so we call it something, just a simple plain diagnosis was enough. Now histopathology has emerged as a very, very powerful branch with the ability to direct treatment with predictive markers, prognosticate with prognostic markers, use of tissue for molecular studies, and you are the center point of multidisciplinary team. We have a lot of multidisciplinary team discussions, and many things uh, are solved at the level of pathology. And pathology really, really directs a lot of management, especially in oncopathology settings. It is extremely at the center point. So I think this is one of the most important slides in the whole presentation. What are the challenges as private pathologists we would face, and what are the issues which are coming up in the near future, which would also create issues or challenges for you? I think the basic is setting up a histopathology lab, convincing the surgeons to send specimens, educating them on pre-analytical issues, reporting of histopathology samples, the turnaround times, clinical relevance of your reports, how it is managed, standardization, quality control, how to reduce errors in histopathology. This is extremely important. As histopathologists, we are trying to do the best for the patient, as well as trying to really trying to save us from any kind of litigation. That's also very important aspect, and that's an important challenge. Accreditation is coming in a big way. Even smaller labs are going in for these accreditation. That is important, and a lot of new technologies coming into the market. So as private pathologists, you would really think which technologies should be embraced, what are going to come in the near future. First of all, it's setting up a histopathology lab. You should really be interested in the subject. The finances and economics obviously play a very important role when you work privately. It is all depend on the need based in a geographic area, and it also depends on trained lab personnel which you require for setting up a histopath lab. The issue in histopathology is that there are not many takers. Although most of us would love to do histopathology, when you go out in the private, most of the work is on hematology and biochemistry. It is histopathology is very labor intensive. Quality management is more intense. Financial returns in histopathology are uh, less, comparatively less as compared to hemat and biochemistry. And there are more chances of litigation. There can be disastrous consequences of a wrong report in histopathology. So the challenge of finding trained technician is also a big challenge. There is a shortage of qualified histotechnologists. Increase influx of more sophisticated specimen testing and need for standardization is also an important challenge. I think everybody in the audience would agree that there is a lot of competition in the private sector. Many technician-run laboratories can go to any length to secure business. Uh, so the MD pathologist and the qualified doctors have to sort of compete with the not so qualified people, and that's a very formidable challenge for pathology labs. Another important aspect in histopathology is convincing the surgeon. This is a very important issue, especially pre-analytical issue. If you do immunohistochemistry, molecular testing, and if the tissue is bad quality, I think the whole system goes for a toss. So convincing the surgeons, educating them on pre-analytical issues is a very important. I think it's a prerogative of the pathologist to do so. You form a team with your own surgeons and you have to sort of convince them the issues and the resistance to urge to cut the tumor. You should tell the surgeons not to cut and send the sample one to one lab, another to. So we receive sometimes some blocks from one lab as a referral case, and the same patient will bring another block from another lab with another report. So these are the issues which are extremely dangerous when it comes to medical issues, medical legal issues. So this should be done. Technical aspects you all are very well versed with. You need space, reagents, instruments, quality control, and audits all should be in place before you actually start practicing histology. I'll be coming more and talking more about challenges in histopathology reporting, where we are going into and what is going to happen. Uh, you can report on smaller biopsies. The smaller biopsies are getting smaller and smallest, and they're almost disappearing. They're very small bits, and the information you need to give in the small bit is increasing. So the tissue is decreasing, but the report needs to be bigger. Larger resections, how many sections would you take in private private setup? Would you use synoptic checklist? Which guidelines should be used? CAP, RCPath, ICCR datasets. This is mainly about Oncopath I am talking. So it's a lot of confusion when you sit in the private lab, sit alone in a lab, these things would come to your mind. How do you get aware with recent entities, recent information? And clinical information, communication with clinician is a big issue in private setup. You don't have access to this in this. I'll just show you this. So this was 2014 ISUP Gleason grading of prostate cancer. In 2009, we have a GUPS paper on 2019 grading of prostate cancer. In 2019, again, we have ISUP consensus on grading of prostate. The problem for a private pathologist sitting in a private lab is which to use, which is right, which is wrong, what is the difference? These are 50 pages articles. You cannot read and start practicing it the next day. So this is a big challenge and big confusion created by different papers and different articles which come up, and which you don't know which to follow up. When it comes to reporting oncology specimens, the histological type is already known. You should give the margins, TNM, prognostic features. All this is needed by the clinician these days to manage the patient post-surgery for adjuvant therapies. Clinical data. This is a starting point of any management of any patient. This is totally lacking in the private sector. Many private pathologists do not have any access to this. This is extremely important, and you should educate your fellow clinician to provide you with adequate clinical data. It's very important to interpret histopathology. When it comes to resected specimen, inking of margins, this is not very obviously available to everybody and accessible to everybody. Thankfully, we do use these in our setup. So these are important. And then even if the pathologist is very much aware of taking margins, radial, distance, deep, shave margins, many times the clinician doesn't understand this terminology. So you say radial margin of this is free, or shave margin is free of tumor. Many times you will get a lot of calls by the clinician. What do you mean by these? Many of them don't understand, especially general surgeons. They have no clue about these things. So I think communication is an important challenge which histopathologists in private sector have to face. I'll quickly go to minimum data set. I'll give you an example of renal cancer. So this is renal cancer. This is the RCC pathology report. This is the minimum thing which you need to include. And this includes so many things. You have to give the type, the ISUP grade, necrosis percentage, tumor size. So there are so much information in one single entity. These are the common tumors which you see, but then there are so many recent modification classification of RCC. There are so many epithelial entities. There are grading changes, staging issues. How do you keep pace with this? How do you keep pace with each and every entity? You just heard a talk by Dr. Sonal Sharma. She describes so many dermatological vesicular bullous lesions. It is just impossible to keep pace with the developments in every field. So when you're sitting in a private setup, how do you really keep pace with so many different entities? And I really think that the hats off to you that you sit alone with no help in the private setting, and you still manage to do very good work and very basic good work in histopathology. So really hats off to you. uh, there is a big challenge of reducing errors. There are studies which say that 6% to 10% of histopathology labs can have very high rate of errors, which can potentially harm the patient. And in today's era, the margin of error should be almost nil, because the diagnosis changes, the management changes completely based on the diagnosis. So the errors have to be reduced. You should have all guidelines to reduce your errors, to ensure written protocols. Your lab technicians are very integral part. They should understand the all the quality programs and or use audits to reduce errors. There should be good clinician communication, especially in frozen section and other aspects of histopathology. Uh, Quickly, so I'll just highlight a few common reporting errors which we come across when we get referral cases. In renal cancer, you may not get renal sinus invasion, venous invasion may not be mentioned. In bladder cancer, there are a lot of issues in grading muscle invasion. In prostatic, obviously, there's a lot of confusion in Gleason grading, missing of cancer in TURP chips. In endometrial tumors, you may have issues in picking up of LVSA, myometrial. All these have got repercussions in the management of the patients. The issue is during MD training, many of the pathologists may not be trained at well-equipped centers, and they may not have access to all these guidelines and all these issues of what to report and put up in the report. And that's the major thing, that our training during our MD pathology sometimes may not be adequate. There's no standardized protocol or standardized curriculum which we follow. Again, accreditation is an important issue in private setup. If you look at 2017 data, only 783 out of all the labs in the country are accredited. This may have increased to about 1,000 by 2020. But then this is an important, because this gives you an edge over the other competitors in your practice. So that is an issue. But then what to get accredited? Should it be NABL? Should it be CAP accreditation? Should it be some other? Should we follow EQUAS with somebody in the country or outside the country? Those are the issues which you face. And it's a very labor intensive. Accreditation requires creating a quality manual, finding the right quality manager, defining the processes, streamlining them, continuously monitoring, auditing, and improving them, and documenting all of them. So it's a huge labor intensive task of accreditation, and this you will have to undergo in the coming years. Coming to new technologies, we all know that a lot of new technologies like automation, computerization have come up, and these are placing a lot of demands on the labs. Surgical pathology department is like an industrial unit. It receives, processes, and reports thousands of specimens annually. So it's like it's an assembly line. It's a factory assembly line, and you need to have all the process in places for this. So if you automate, there are a lot of benefits both at the patient level as well as the pathologist, histotechnician, lab manager, and clinician level. It increases the efficiency, it reduces the errors, but then it requires investment. So finances and economics need to be worked out if you really want to automate. I'll show you a couple of pictures of how barcoding and tracking helps at different steps. So at specimen receiving, you can have barcoding. At a grossing station, you can have barcoding. At different sections, you have barcoding. You can have same patients, different specimens are barcoded in different ways, and given different numbers, and you can utilize them as. So I can barcoding is one way of reducing errors. After we started barcoding, our number of mix-ups and these things have decreased. Then tracking systems, synoptic reporting systems should be in place. This is how we put up our username, password, and this is how our reports come online. We do correction online reporting of reports. Other techniques like IHC, molecular pathology, and digital imaging may not be very accessible in private setup in smaller and standalone labs, but then these are coming in a big way. I don't think oncopathology can be practiced without immunohistochemistry. IHC is a very powerful tool. It helps in prediction, cell lineage dissemination, and prediction and prognostication. But it has got a lot of technical and interpretive. If you're not trained well in reading IHCs, if you don't have a technician who does well good IHCs, you will face problems. There are so many steps involved in immunohistochemistry, and you have to when you acquire a new antibody, you have to do so many titrations, dilutions. You have to find the right method for this. You may get good positive controls and good reaction, and then you may get a lot of applause from your colleagues. But then and on some other day, the IHC may just go for a toss, and you may find it difficult. So you have to maintain a lot of quality in IHC also, and it requires standardized protocols for this. So I'll quickly go through this. The other important thing which is coming up in a big way is companion diagnostic and molecular testing. Earlier, the therapy was to be single kind of therapy for all patients. Now each patient is getting individualized treatment based on his biomarkers. It is very well exemplified by lung adenocarcinoma. You can see that earlier we used to give only small cell versus small cell carcinoma. Then it was adeno versus squamous. Now adenocarcinoma needs confirmation with TTF and napsin. Tissue needs to be tested for EGFR, ALK, FISH, ROS, MET, and many more. And most of the lung cancers would go for next generation sequencing. So I really don't know how we are going to keep pace with it. Dr. Reena, you would agree with me that keeping pace with all these technologies is going to be extremely difficult in the coming times. And histopathology is at the center point of all these. That's the main issue. So I'll quickly go through these. So you have liquid biopsy to prognosticate tumor cells which are in the periphery. Digital pathology, many of us have started embracing this. It is going to probably replace a microscope at some point of time. During this COVID time, at least in Tata Hospital, we have sat at home and reported a lot of cases sitting at home on digital path. And I think this is helpful. This will be your companion for a long time. Digital path, once you invest in it, it will in the long run help you in a long way. So this is how you can have setups. You can sit at home, sit in the room. You can use it while traveling. You can get accurate distances of the margin, the depths of the margin, the depths of the tumor. So all this can be done by digital. A lot more can be done on digital pathology. What it is not going to do is it's not going to eliminate your glass slides. It is not going to eliminate histology, and it is not going to change the morphology. It remains the same. So your training as a pathologist, as a histopathologist, will remain the same. You have to learn it before you shift on to digital pathology. It's going to be ancillary for you. I think this is a very important slide. In the coming year, a histopathologist will have access to sitting in his room or cockpit, as I would say, histology, gross, X-rays, radiology, histological picture, and molecular. So he will have to, or she will have to integrate sitting in the room all these for the benefit of the patient. And this is going to be the future in the life of histopathology coming. AI is coming in a very big way, and I'm very happy to say that Gleason grading might become more standardized by use of this. But then we are at the risk of losing jobs. We are seriously at the risk of losing some kind of job. Although it may support us, there will be certain things which AI is going to take away from the histopathologist. So these are some pictures to show that deep learning systems are already at a point where they are comparable to doctors who have 15 year or more experience. So AI system algorithms, and they are very helpful in picking up these tumors. So this is a lymph node where you see this is the tumorous area, this is the lymph nodal area, and AI can pick these up, and these are going to help you in your daily practice in coming years. So just coming to the end, basically what we practice now is this. We have a tissue patient, we have hospital pathology labs, we communicate with the doctors. In the coming lot of informatics, molecular diagnostics, personalized treatment, integrated information, genomics, proteomics, all this is going to come up. And as histopathology, you're going to be in center of this. And more or less, many of you will have to shift on to something more lucrative, more information, more educative. And this is going to be exciting as well as demanding in the coming future. So to summarize my talk, anatomic pathology is a very exciting branch of medicine. We love it. I would put up the question, don't we really love it? We actually love it. I think training in our MD needs a total revamp. We really need to revamp all our MD trainings. Practicing histopathology have several challenges in communication, technological advances, financial targets. I think group practice with subspecialization may be key because of the sudden and huge expanse in every subspecialty. So group practice might be a good way of doing it. We have to embrace and work along with technology, and we need to be comfortable placed in the management team for the benefit of the patient.